Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the Netflix series, K-drama series, As You Stood By. And trigger warning, this show consists of themes of DV. And so if you are going to be affected by that, or that is something that hits close to home, then I suggest that you click off of this video. With that being said, this show is actually based on a Japanese show called Naomi and Kanako, which pretty much follows the same premise, I'm sure, with some deviations. I've never seen that show. If you have, let me know if it's similar to this one. So yeah, let's kind of get into what this show is actually about. So As You Stood By is a dark Korean crime thriller limited series on Netflix that follows two lifelong friends one of whom is the victim of DV and one of whom has consistently witnessed DV throughout her life, though she hasn't personally experienced it, at least not physically, right? And so she sets out to avenge her friend from this husband who is abusing her. Hence, this leads to a desperate and dangerous decision that will change their lives forever. So what starts as a plan for survival quickly turns into this tense psychological game of guilt, secrets, and unexpected twists. As I said before, this show poses themes of DV, moral choices, friendships, and ultimately what kind of happens when the system that is meant to protect you kind of fails, but not too much so, more so in a direct manner in this show. The show explores how far people will go for someone they love, and how far they're willing to go to cross that line and what happens when they do cross that line. Without further ado, let's get into some of the characters. So sorry if I get these names wrong, but this show features the actress Lee Yu-mi, who plays the character Choi Hoi-soo, who is the character who is the victim here, or the main victim in this show. She has starred in the first season, I believe, of Squid Game, and also one of my other favorite Korean series, All of Us Are Dead. And she is the girl who's she has the long red hair, and All of Us Are Dead is like a zombie. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. But yeah, so she is the victim, and she is the best friend of Cho On-soo. And that character is played by the actress Jun So-ni. And so from here on out, I'm just going to say the characters' names. And so On-soo and Hoi-soo are best friends. Then we also have Jin Pyo, which is Hoi-soo's husband, so he is the abuser. Then we have Jin So-baek, who is another prominent character throughout this series. I will get into his character more once I explain the show. We have Detective No Jin-young, who is Jin Pyo's sister. She's a detective, and she is looking to get into higher rankings within her country. Then we have their mother, Ko Jung-suk. Then we also have Jang Kang, who is also played by the same actor who plays Jin Pyo, Hoi-soo's husband, and we'll get into that more. So pretty much this show starts off with On-soo, who is Hoi-soo's best friend, who is, she works at this luxury department store. And at first, starting off this show, I was like, why are we being taken here? However, it shows us the point when we realize that one of her prominent clients at this store is abusing his wife, and she sees evidence of this when the wife comes in to call her to help her zip up her dress. And I'm assuming she does this because she probably thinks that Unsu is going to help her somehow. However, Unsu kind of stands back at the end of it all, and she does nothing. Prior to this, or maybe a little bit after this, she is trying to sell a watch to a client. And ultimately, this man, who turns out to be Jin Sobek, steals the watch. And she goes out of her way to get this watch back from him. She finds out that he stole the watch for a deal that actually fell through. So he gives her back the watch. And somehow, some way, they actually develop this kind of relationship with each other at first, because he's like, okay, like, you owe me a dinner because, you know, I gave you back the watch. And this is not a romantic relationship at all. It's very platonic. He's actually probably about 15 to 20 years older than her, maybe more than that. And so this relationship eventually develops into kind of more so like a daughter-father relationship. We find out that Jin Sobek also lost his son 20 years ago, which would make sense as to why he kind of takes her in as more so like his child. Eventually, he does the same thing with Hui Su, but that comes a little bit later on. While she is actually at dinner with Jin Sobek, we see that as they are watching the TV or hearing the news, she finds out that the prominent client's wife was actually ran over by a car by her husband. And Unsu immediately feels guilty because while it's presented as a suicide, she feels like it's not necessarily that, but it might more so be either him doing this on purpose to her, or her doing this to herself, or her committing this act because of what her husband was doing to her. And whilst this is all going on, she also has found out or has some inkling that something is wrong with her friend Hoisu, because Hoisu has not been answering her phone. She's canceled lunch dates, all of that jazz. And so because she is aware of this, she goes to Hoisu's apartment, where we see Hoisu is about to take her own life. Prior to this or during this, we are seeing that Hoisu's husband, Jin Pyo, is consistently being violent towards her, if you know what I mean. And it's very, very brutal. The show, I think, does a good job in not showing all of the physical violence, but they show enough for us to know and really feel what this person is going through, and actually almost at one point almost feels like we are Huisu. I do think the actors, I would just like to say the actors and actresses, I think, are phenomenal in this show. I really felt the tenseness in the scenes. I felt the urgency in the scenes when need be. I felt the love and the care, and whatever they were trying to portray on screen, I really did feel it in that moment. So I think this was an amazing show through and through, just solely because of that. And so eventually Unsu decides that, you know what, I'm not going to let this happen to you, right? If anyone is going to die, it's going to be Jin Pyo. And they eventually come up with this plan to murder her husband. At first, Huisu does not want to do it, but eventually she does text Unsu, and she's like, we're going to do it. And I'm assuming this is because she just experienced more violence from her husband. And so the plan at this point, Unsu has, you know, consistently, I guess, been going to see Jin Sobek, more so because of the watch and stuff like that. But, you know, he slowly starts to suspect things. Unsu constantly comes across this delivery. He works at the market that Jin Sobek works at. Jin Sobek is he owns like a supermarket enterprise or like a delivery company. I don't know, but he's got money. Okay. Like, and so she always goes to this warehouse where she always sees this guy unloading boxes. And they always like make eye contact. And so her plan is to use him. And I'm assuming the reason why she always looked at him is because he looked eerily familiar to Huisu's husband. And then I guess when she comes up with this plan, this dawns on her that she could use him. So he's actually from Shanghai, China. And at one point, she meets up with him in her car just outside of the warehouse. And she lets him know that, hey, I'm going to give you this passport with this money, and you're going to go back to China. And Jen Kang initially is like, I'll do it under one condition, that the person that I'm taking the passport for is alive. And she's like, of course he's alive, you know, kind of gets a little bit defensive. And so her plan is to send him to China so that when her and Huisu do murder Jin Pyo, that there will be record of this man who looks like Jin Pyo and has Jin Pyo's passport has actually gone to China. And she actually gets this idea from Jin So-baek because while they were at dinner and they saw the news of her client's wife taking her own life, he says to her, oh, she should have killed her husband. And at another point, when she goes to him and asks, like, and she asks him a question, and he says, well, they either have to not find the body, or the person has to not be found. And so she gets this idea from Jin So-baek, unbeknownst to him. He does realize this later on in the show. And so they carry out the plan. Unfortunately, Jin Pyo, who works for this really big company, I don't really understand what he does, but he works for this company. He's rich. And Jin Pyo, actually, who has been tracking his wife and has cameras on her and all of that, he becomes suspicious when he gets this text. Well, he's suspicious beforehand because he's tracking his wife, and like she tells him she's going to see her mother in a nursing home. And although she says this, she's like seen in the forest. So he's like, what is she doing there? And then he gets a text message that, you know, his hotel stay, or to confirm his Shanghai flight, or his hotel in Shanghai. So he comes home whilst Eunsu is there with Huisu while they're planning to like strangle him. And he comes home, Eunsu hides in the room, and he's approaching Huisu like, what is going on? And he's about to get violent with her. And then Eunsu comes out and starts to defend her. However, he starts to beat them both up. Ultimately, Eunsu overpowers him, and then Huisu comes and smashes his head in, and he is dead now. I forgot to mention that Eunsu, I believe she does jujitsu, and she was banned from her class because she got too violent, because she was thinking about all of these things all the time. And so, yeah, she got kicked out. She kept going back after hours. The man allowed her to go, gave her a belt, and then kicked her out again. Another important thing that I forgot to mention is that when Eunsu was small, along with her brother, she did witness several times on several occasions that her mother was being abused by her father. And so this, you know, obviously this is her entire childhood. And so this is kind of, I think, what ultimately leads her to take this action. This is also how her and Huisu became friends in high school, by Huisu coming to her aid and you know, whatnot. Eunsu is experiencing secondhand abuse by her own father, by witnessing him do this to her mother. And then also it's, you know, towards her and her brother because they're children, and she's hearing and witnessing this, but she feels as an adult that she should have done something. We even see further along that she had called the cops, and she's like an 8-year-old child. And when confronted about it, the cops came and everything. She was too scared to say what really happened. We see that she witnessed someone abusing her, his wife, and the wife acts pretty much wants her to come to the aid of her, and she also does nothing out of fear. And now I think when it comes to her friend, she finally feels like I can take action for this, and she's not, of course, she's really doing it for her. She is doing it for Hoisu because she clearly loves Hoisu. But also I think a part of it is her standing up for the people that she did not stand up for prior to this. And so, yeah, I'm going to kind of end that. This is like the first part of it. I'm going to end that here, or else this video would be way, way, way too long. And in the next video on this show, I'm going to explain the second half of the show. I really did enjoy this show. Again, it's very heavy, but also I think they did such a great job in portraying it. I did read some Reddit posts where people were kind of upset about where the second half of this show went. However, I don't think it took away from anything. And it does dwell on kind of like the aftermath of everything and what they are experiencing. Also, some very insufferable characters, such as Jinpyo's mother and his sister. Oh my goodness. But yeah, guys, this is the end of the first half of As You Stood By. In my next video on this show, I'll be exploring the second half. So yeah, guys, let me know what you thought about the show up to this point, or even further on, because I've watched it already, so it won't be spoilers. And yeah, guys, I will see you in the next video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.